Buenos días a todos y bienvenidos a la 7ª edición del Congreso Internacional de Cocina Micológica de Castilla y León, Soria Gastronómica. Estamos con Regit y Jad Marcón, que vienen desde el corazón de una zona profundamente rural en Francia, rodeada de montañas y bosques, que a lo largo de 25 años Regit y su esposa transformaron un pequeño hostal familiar en un restaurante de 3 estrellas Michelin. El restaurante Regit et Jacques Marcon, que es su nombre actual. Jacques, que es el hijo de ambos, ha asumido ahora la dirección de la empresa. La cocina que elaboran aúna gastronomía, bienestar y salud con una oferta de productos ecológicos y de agricultura sostenible, productos de temporada, cultivados o silvestres, entre los que hay muchas especies. Buscando siempre el bienestar dietético, el restaurante apuesta por las cocciones a baja temperatura y utiliza azúcares de origen sostenible. La filosofía del restaurante se basa en una relación más estrecha con la naturaleza, la creatividad, la innovación, la participación en el desarrollo local y sus conocimientos y experiencias. Aquí, en este restaurante, todo está marcado por las 4 estaciones. En primavera, hierbas silvestres y cordero. Las frutas en verano. Y, por supuesto, en otoño, las setas que dan juego hasta comienzos del invierno en que empiezan las trufas. Aquí no hay carta fija. Todas las semanas hay nuevos productos y nuevas recetas. Pero los grandes clásicos de la cocina también tienen su lugar. Quiero a continuación también presentar
the other participants in the session. Jean Rondet, an engineer, phytopathologist, and for 40 years he has worked on territorial promotion of mushrooms, both in France and abroad. A former engineer at the Ministry of Agriculture, he currently is an independent consultant specializing in international cooperation projects. His work focuses on the development of rural areas and mycological innovation. He is also particularly interested in the nutritional value and properties of mushrooms and their use in the preparation of food. Melanie Roy, who will join us later, she's in a meeting now at the university, is a lecturer and in research and in ecology and evolution at Toulouse 3 University, and her conducts research in the boreal forest, Patagonia, Amazon jungle, and Asian European forest. She's an expert in symbiotic ectomycorrhiza. She studies their diversity, their biogeographical history, and their functional importance for certain ecosystems which are threatened by climate change and land usage, which is essential at the moment. Alain Bordet is the 3rd generation of owners of the Maison Borde, founded in 1920, an SME specialized in the commercialization of wild mushrooms, one of the most important ones in France. He has a degree in trade and commerce, and he uses dried mushrooms sold in France, but more than 65 countries. The SME plays a key role in the local economy and forges partnership with local chefs such as Régis and Jacques Marcon, but also with Philippe Brun and Jean-Pierre Vidal. I would like to explain to you the dynamics of this first session. I will give the floor to Jean Rondet. He will coordinate and present the videos. We have 5 different videos where we'll see cooking, forests, and the production, mycological production, and the transformation of these mushrooms. So go ahead, Jean, you have the floor. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much. So I'm going to speak in French because I think we have simultaneous interpreting. So thank you very much for your presence, for your attendance. So in fact, the webinar will take place, as he just said. We have prepared 5, it's like a little film, 5 parts. So the idea is to look at each of the parts of this video, and then we will have a little discussion, questions and some remarks. between the two sequences of the film. So we have about 5-6 minutes between each video. So if you please, we will start with, in the 5 videos, it's a logic. We'll start with the harvesting and the forest, and then we're going to go into cooking, cuisine, and we'll also talk about innovative aspects, research, and nutrition. And at the end, we will talk about the involvement of chefs in their local territory, and that's how it's going to work. And we're going to start with the first sequence of the film, and we're going to cut our microphones while we watch the video on our cameras, so that people are not distracted and can just watch the video. We are not going to talk during the video, just one part, and we will tell you later. But for this first part, we're not going to speak, we won't be present. And at the end of this first part of the video, we will come back with the microphone and the camera. Is that okay? Very good, absolutely. So I'm going to cut the camera and I'm going to cut the microphone as well. From the forest to the plate, responsible gastronomy. This small mushroom makes me think of cystoderm. We are now 3 kilometers from the Yom restaurant, right? Yes, that's it. So around us we have the forests, pines, wild pines, beaches. So it's a great forest. And next to Régis, we have someone who will introduce himself. He's a harvester. So here we can see in this situation the fact that there's a short circuit with the supply of local mushrooms, which is in fact also possible because there are harvesters who are here to organize this supply. Yeah, it's a whole story. It's a tradition in the village where children are initiated in the harvesting of mushrooms. There are corners with mushrooms, and for us, I don't say it's a tourist product. I don't like that term, but it's a reason, the motive, the theme of our cuisine. It's all this biodiversity, but the mushroom is really part of our village because the streets have names of mushrooms. It really has become a whole. And as Jérôme said, it's important at that level to know, to be accompanied by amateurs, by mycological experts, and they are coming. We have Jérôme and other experts. They have allowed us to understand this forest better, to understand the mushroom, and to respect this environment better. So it doesn't mean we want to keep our mushrooms, but we kind of become ambassadors of a well-managed forest. In my cuisine, in my cooking, when I cook, there are different types of mushrooms, but some that I prefer for the taste, others because of the texture, others for their color. Others have several properties like the Lactarius, the saffron milk, it's the color and the taste. And the hedgehog mushroom is very interesting because it's very crunchy, not so much because of the taste. We can prepare this, can prepare on the pan. It's a very good taste. It's surprising.
Interesante, muy interesante.
Very interesting, this video. And we come back to the hedgehog mushroom. In yesterday's session in the afternoon, we also valued this as a underused mushroom. So now, Jean, give you the floor. Maybe Alain should put back his microphone and camera. I don't know if you're there. So the quality of the film, it's maybe not so good, but if you can recover the video later, the images are very nice. Regis, maybe I had some questions for you. Maybe you could explain to complement how harvesting has evolved with the management of the forest, if there are fewer mushrooms than usual. And I know that in Auvergne, they talk about greenhouses. Your restaurant has this originality of using many mushrooms, great variety. Maybe you work with many types of mushrooms. Maybe that's the path for the future. Yes, it's always difficult to answer this question. It's a bit like the snow. They say that there was much more snow before, but now we can have winters with a lot of snow. It's the same for mushrooms, but now we just went through last year or maybe 3-4 years with very few mushrooms, probably due, we cannot give specific questions, probably due to the lack of rain, to the drought, than the forests themselves. Some species have disappeared. The tricolum, tricoloma, that one has disappeared because many pines in the forest have been cut down, and that's really a pity. But it is true that we have fewer mushrooms, that is true. And about the diversity of mushrooms, but I think it's one of the something you do at your restaurant. How many species do you use, and how do you do to guarantee the supply and the quality? I know you work with people who are experts in mycology. We have Jérôme in the video. At least we can see, we couldn't get to know too much about him. He's an expert in mycology, and this allows to guarantee the supply. Is that how you work? Well, yes, in your first question, the same thing. I cannot say if we find fewer species, because before we did not harvest these species. I've worked with harvesters who were, it's nothing bad, but amateurs or farmers who were in charge of harvesting. And now Jacques started a group who came to him, he trusted them, and it turns out that we met men and women who really know the world of mushrooms and have helped us discover other species that we were not cooking before. And now I would say that it's a great new door, white page, blank page for cuisine to go into that line. Because like I said, last Sunday, we had 15 to 18 types of mushrooms in a discovery menu, which is important. And it's very interesting at the same time, because we discover new mushrooms that we were not cooking so far, with new textures, new tastes and flavors, but we adapt. And as for the clients who come to our restaurants, it's a discovery. They had the trumpets, the different 5 or 6 species that we were cooking before. Now we are taking them to the harvesting and discovering new varieties of mushrooms, and that's one special thing about the restaurant. Well, thank you very much. I don't know if Jacques or Anna would like to say something. Otherwise, we would continue with the second part. We can always talk about this at the end. At the end, there's a question and answer round, so we will have time. If you agree, we can continue with the second part of the video. That will be about Alain's company. So we can cut some microphones and cameras again, I think. This year, it is true that for the last 10 years, we are specialists and experts of the wild mushroom. We are in a territory that's in SOG. We have always been in this territory, and this territory has brought things to us, and we provide to this territory as well. Since the beginning of the company, the development was important. We worked a lot with local products at the beginning, and later on, we imported mushrooms. My father from the 60s started importing products from everywhere in the world, and he started harvesting in many countries around the planet. And nowadays, we are a company who is a leader in this market in France, and we export half of our production. So it's true that in 100 years, we've gone a long way to an expert level now, high expert level in the field of the sale and transformation of mushrooms. Régis and Jacques Marcon, they work with the local mushrooms. They are harvesters. What we can provide to them is maybe other species that specificities that are difficult to find with certain aspects in terms of the taste. When I talk to Jacques, we talk about the taste of mushrooms. And with me, he looks for specific things he cannot find in the local market, because those specific things only exist in certain places in the world. So I think that with the diversity of my sourcing, I can provide things at that level, things that we do not have in France, because there are mushrooms in France, but there are also mushrooms everywhere in the world, and they all have their specificities. So the one from the Balkans will be different from the French one or from the Russian one, and there will be different stamps. So at the evolution of the company, we're working on the evolution regularly in 3 to 5 year periods. And the evolution of the company is to continue to source better raw ingredients, but also to try and develop local subsidiaries, because nowadays the local products, the local market is highly demanded. So these are axes we will go to little by little. I will talk about the project of the City of Mushrooms, Cité des Champignons. It's a geographical space we are working on, and where we propose a hotel and restaurant offer, but also our museographic offer. So this is part of the company to promote the products, to make sure that our products are better known, that they're used properly. We have technical products, so the City of Mushrooms, where we will be doing shows or exhibits.
Muy interesante.
Okay, very interesting, Jacques. Especially about the City of Mushrooms, we're going to copy that idea. It's really great that this project you want to start. So I'll give you the floor. As you can see, thank you, Alain, for allowing us to enter this company where we can see some of these aspects when we don't know, and we go in there. It's very impressive to see all these mushrooms. We tried to find a title to bring justice to the incredible work by the Board family for 3 generations. So we thought it was interesting to ask the question about the flavors of the world, because we talk about local mushrooms, but as Alain says, there are interesting mushrooms, not just locally. So it's justified to do this international trade, allows us to do this globalization or the exchange between nations. Maybe we should not talk about globalization, it has negative connotations, but it's an exchange with all the world. We have mushrooms that we don't have here in other places of the world. So when it travels and dry, it gives a good result. And apart from that, I wanted to ask Alain, he managed to adapt the company to the fact that there are fewer mushrooms locally. So how do you do to guarantee, let's say, a good traceability and quality of the mushrooms? I know you have close links with suppliers in different countries. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about that, about this matter of responsible trade. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Jean, for giving me the floor. Hello, Melanie. Welcome, Melanie. So we have sourced, my father started the sourcing internationally in the 60s. So we have a network at the moment of suppliers everywhere in the world that is quite solid, with a good structure, with partnerships that we established for many years. And this allowed us to use structures that we can trust. These are people that we meet regularly, that we control, where we carry out studies on the way they work, on the production, the way they harvest, how they control, how they pay their salaries locally. So we do real work in order to make sure that all parts are in agreement and that they do their job. And this international sourcing also gave us a possibility to find, depending on the countries, on the forests, and the different locations, we were able to find specificities, different perfumes, different stumps from other places in the world. Depending on the type of forest, we find specificities that are different, that we value more and more, so we can justify that this stump comes from this location, this territory, will have something specific compared to another stump. Yes, we can hear you perfectly. Another question: with the European Mycological Institute, we are working on the networking of local territories. Do you think, I didn't hear you that. Now you can hear me? Yes. There is a network in the rural area. Can you hear me, Alain? I don't think he can hear me. Maybe we can ask the question later. I don't know. Well, welcome, Melanie. Would you like to say something? When you were not here at the beginning, we looked about the harvesting. I don't know if you watched the film before. Yes, I did watch it. Would you like to add something on the harvesting, on the knowledge of species, the mycologists? and maybe about Alain's company. I don't know if
Oui,
you have
merci de
something
me
to
donner la
say.
parole, oui.
Well, thank you
Donc,
very much.
pour
Thank
me
you for
présenter,
giving
je suis
me the floor.
enseignante-chercheuse en écologie, donc c'est vrai que j'ai
I'm a
un point de
lecturer,
vue aussi d'écologue
researcher
et je
in
travaille beaucoup avec des
mycology, and I
mycologues,
work with
taxonomistes, notamment en
mycologists and
Guyane, donc dans
taxonomists,
des zones où on ne connaît pas du tout. Et c'est vrai que j'ai toujours du mal
It's always
à
difficult
décrocher
to
du coup de cette habitude
lose the
guyanaise de prendre
habit
beaucoup de
of
précautions sur la
take
connaissance
lots
qu'on
of
peut avoir
precautions on
des
the
champignons
knowledge
comestibles
of
et
mushrooms, edible
d'abord
mushrooms,
de valoriser la connaissance avant
and to
d'être
value
dans
knowledge
l'exploitation, d'être dans la
before
cueillette. Donc c'est
exploiting
vrai
and
que quand on voit tout ce
harvesting.
qui se passe au Brésil,
So
ils
when
sont
we
aussi
see a
par
thing that
exemple
happens in
dans une dynamique où ils
Brazil,
cherchent à
they
savoir
have
déjà,
this
à décrire la
dynamic,
biologie, à
try
savoir
to
si on peut faire des
describe the
cueillettes durables,
biology,
par
see
exemple
if
sur
we
les
can
chanterelles de
do
Guyane qui sont
durable,
pas si fréquentes à l'heure actuelle. Donc
harvesting,
c'est vrai
if that is
que pour
possible.
beaucoup de champignons, heureusement
So for
en milieu
many
tempéré, notamment
mushrooms,
dans nos forêts,
hopefully
on a
in
une
our
biomasse qui est
forests,
assez importante,
we have an
des
important
populations en place
biomass
extrêmement stables.
and
Donc la
stable
cueillette a peu d'impact,
populations. So
mais
the
pour
harvesting
beaucoup de
has
champignons, en
little
fait, on ne sait pas.
impact,
Il
but
y a très
for
peu
other
d'espèces
mushrooms, we
protégées.
don't know. There
Donc,
are few
ne pas oublier que
protected
voilà, la connaissance,
species
elle n'est
where we
pas
should not
acquise
forget
pour
that
beaucoup de
knowledge.
champignons.
We
Voilà,
don't have
j'aime
the
bien
knowledge
rappeler
for many of
effectivement que
these
les champignons, on
mushrooms.
ne les connaît pas
And I
tous.
like to remind that
Quand
we
on dit
don't know
qu'on
all
a
the mushrooms.
3,8 millions d'espèces, on
When
en
we say
connaît
that
150 000 en fait.
3.8
Donc
million, we just
ça
know
peut donner une
150,000.
idée, en tout cas à ceux qui s'intéressent aux
So
champignons,
for those who are
de
interested
l'effort
in
de connaissance
mushrooms,
qu'on a
can
à
give you
faire
an idea that the knowledge we
avant
need
l'exploitation.
before we can exploit
Voilà,
them.
donc ça c'était
So that
voilà
was
pour cette
just
partie-là.
regarding
Ensuite,
that part.
effectivement sur cet
And
aspect
about
cueillette,
the harvesting,
c'est vrai que pour les champignons,
it is true that
en
with
tout cas
the
dont
mushrooms
la productivité est encore mal
for which
connue en fait,
productivity is
pense
not
à tout ce qui est
known,
champignons ectomycorrhiziens. On
for
a peu de données
mycorrhizal
finalement sur la
mushrooms, we have
durabilité
little
parfois.
data on the
Donc c'est vrai que
sustainability.
ça c'est souvent finalement on
So
s'aperçoit que les cueilleurs sont
often
des gens
we
assez
realize that
respectueux
harvesters
qui connaissent bien la
respect
nature et donc
the
qui vont
environment, they
eux-mêmes
know the
réguler.
nature, and they're going to
Mais
regulate
on
it
peut
for
très bien avoir
themselves,
des
but
pillages aussi et
there
c'est ça
could
qui est pas
be
évident
also some pillage.
de savoir voilà.
We
C'est un
need
peu
to
comme la chasse aux
know.
espèces sauvages. En fait,
It's
on
like
ne sait pas
hunting
toujours,
wild species. We
enfin, des
don't
espèces sur
always
lesquelles il n'y aurait pas
know.
trop de régulation, on n'a pas
If
d'idée
there's
des
no
stocks.
regulation, we don't know
En tout cas, je trouve ça
anything
bien
about
qu'il
the
y ait
stocks. So I think
énormément de
it's
projets
good
actuellement
that there
pour
are projects
modéliser,
nowadays
évaluer
to
l'impact de nos
assess
pratiques. C'est une façon
our
d'avoir un recul
practices.
justement sur
It's a
l'impact
way
des
to
cueillettes.
have an idea on the harvesting. With regard to this, we try to work mycoculture. We will be happy to work with you. So mycosilviculture is the management of the forest by knowing things properly to preserve the trees and preserve our resources and mushrooms and to work in that line. And on the other hand, we try to start working better on the culture of mushrooms in natural environments. And this is a question I wanted to tell Alain, who joined us, was the idea that there are mushroom cultures and agricultural substrates, but also on forests. When we talk about Guyana, the Caribbean, this is an idea that to value the local mushroom, and we realize that we have natural conditions, especially if we talk about local harvested mushrooms. I don't know what you think about this. I know that Alain was talking also in the video about short circuits, how to develop short circuits again. This is linked to the cultivation of mushrooms.
It was just a question or a reflection. I don't know what you can say about this. You have talked about sustainability, and sometimes it's very difficult to manage all this because we have a very specific product. So it is very important to manage it so that we have sustainable mushrooms later on for a long period of time. And so
la culture, quand elle est possible, c'est une excellente
alternative
effectivement à l'impact qu'on peut avoir.
Yes, it is true.
D'autant plus qu'effectivement, on peut jouer avec sur les substrats et sur les goûts que ça peut apporter.
We can play with the substrates to obtain more specific mushrooms.
Ça fait baisser le prix des champignons aussi. Il y a des enjeux économiques aussi derrière.
But there is also an important economic impact that we have to take into account. And regarding mushroom culture, it is important, as we said, to have always in mind the taste, the flavor of wild mushrooms, because forests and nature has always to have this dynamic equilibrium between flavors and typical characteristics of the forest. Man has left its footprint, sometimes positive, sometimes negative, and this is why we have to find an equilibrium between harvesting and the forest characteristics, and we have to do it among our day-to-day life. And in this diverse nature, we have to look for this equilibrium so that we do not harm forests, and we can obtain wild mushrooms that will always respect nature and will enable us not to abuse its beauty and preserve nature. We have to be aware that we cannot eat or consume wild products as we want. We have to preserve this equilibrium, and this is what happens a bit all over the world, in every country. It's a situation that we can see in different forests. I apologize because I have to check the email. I'll be back in a second. We can continue with the third video. Yes, we will continue with the third video. Let's put the microphones off and we will watch the third video.
Jacques, je me suis trompé. Si tu veux commenter, si tu veux apparaître, Jacques.
Jacques, if you want to comment on something, you can switch your camera and make some comments, or otherwise we can just watch the video.
En cuisine, simplement. Voilà, on est en train de dresser une assiette.
Here we are preparing a dish, a very typical dish.
Chaque plat en ce moment a un champignon déterminé parce qu'on en a à peu près une vingtaine de variétés.
On each dish we can see a specific mushroom to show a bit the variety of our mushrooms that are on our menu. And here we can see the whole list of the mushrooms that we offer. And here we can see it on display on a column in our kitchen with all the mushroom varieties that we offer. It is a very large kitchen, as you can see.
Là, par exemple, ouais, ça c'est un plat de parasites crépus et d'anguilles. Moi, mes ramasseurs m'ont annoncé qu'il n'y aurait plus beaucoup de parasites la semaine prochaine, donc on a changé le plat, tout simplement, on est parti sur du charbonnier.
And here we are showing a preparation. Actually, we had thought about a different dish, but due to harvesting problems, we did not have some mushrooms available. So we had to change the dish as we went along, because not always the harvester can provide us with what we want. So here we can see a great variety of flavors and aromas. We have wild mushrooms, we have milk caps, trumpets of the dead, or black chanterelles. So there is a large variety of mushrooms in one single dish.
On doit faire à peu près, je pense, vingtaine de kilos, 25 kilos de champignons par jour, à peu près, pour 100 couverts.
We work with around 25 kilos of mushrooms per day.
Un peu de champignons qu'on présente aux clients, justement. L'idée, c'est de présenter aux clients tous les champignons qu'ils vont déguster pendant le repas.
With this dish, we show our guests the mushrooms with which we work so that they can know the type and the names of the mushrooms that they are going to eat. And they are shown these mushrooms on this wooden dish so that we can explain to them the technical names, the characteristics of each mushroom. And here we start putting the food on the dish.
Ça, c'est un dessert justement avec les champignons d'Alain. C'est dans le classique de la maison, c'est une poire au caramel de Maury. Voilà.
Here we serve them, the mushrooms, with caramel juice, caramel-based juice. Okay, this was very interesting to see the work in the kitchen of Régis and Jean-Marc Kong. It is a great pleasure to see how you work and to see how you work with a great variety of mushrooms, adding value and promoting everything that the forest offers. There is a very special detail, which is showing your guests the mushrooms on their natural state, the mushrooms that they are going to eat later on. So this is great. It's something that is really well done. And now I will give the floor to Jean. I liked 2 points from the point of view of nutrition and health. Apart from the beauty of the dishes that you prepare, I wanted to highlight the association between vegetables and mushrooms, which I think that you have something to bring or contribute in this area, right? Because it is a dynamic aspect that this relationship between vegetables and mushrooms is very important in your cuisine. And also the fact that you have a manner of cooking at very low temperature, which does not modify the original flavor of mushrooms.
Cuisson minute, ça dénature moins le produit, ça garde tous les parfums, parce que c'est vrai qu'un champignon, dès qu'on le cuit, il y a tous les arômes, on le sait, hein, quand on fait une fricassée. Donc, on cuit tous les sparadrais crépus, les cèpes, les chanterelles, on les cuit vraiment à la minute. Ça permet d'avoir plus de parfums possible.
So that they do not lose their added value. As we said, we are 24 people in the kitchen. And we try to take care to the minimum detail, the characteristics of each one. A more dry mushroom needs more juice, so to change its texture. And we take care of every detail regarding this aspect. And in terms of vegetables, we know that they give a vegetable touch, which is lighter because the mushroom on the mouth has a very strong flavor. And if we combine it with some vegetables from our garden, we can give this natural touch of freshness, because the mushroom is not very creamy. The creamy nature gets lost. So this is why we combine it with vegetables, to give it this interesting touch. The aroma of our mushrooms is very characteristic, and this is also an aromatized touch with herbs that can highlight the characteristics of the mushroom, but also of the vegetables that we did not know sometimes. And you can see this. This is the discussion that I have sometimes with my father, because sometimes I would even like to have vegetables and mushrooms for breakfast. But we have to take care of the cooking of the vegetables and the mushrooms, because what we find on the dish, we have to reproduce it in the mouth. We have to conquer our tasting buds with these flavors, and this is not very
Oui, je trouve ça hyper intéressant là. Effectivement, cet aspect évocation voilà, des champignons. Alors, effectivement, moi, je suis pas restauratrice, mais par exemple, je sais que j'aime beaucoup faire sentir à mes élèves les parfums des champignons. Déjà sur le terrain, notamment parce que c'est un critère mycologique de détermination important. Donc, je les fais toujours rigoler avec l'odeur d'alcool de poire ou de saucisse de foie, de champignons pas forcément comestibles. Donc, cet aspect odeur, je pense qu'il est très important à valoriser. Et c'est vrai que c'est intéressant aussi avec des amis quand on cuisine à la maison, d'être capable de leur faire sentir le produit frais. Voilà, il y a plein d'odeurs du bois, en fait, qui ne sont pas que des odeurs de champignons, qui vont être importantes. Et ça contribue clairement au plaisir. Et ça, c'est vrai que je trouve que le plat nous distancie un peu de l'odeur, mais c'est particulièrement préjudiciable pour les champignons. Donc, moi, j'aime beaucoup, par exemple, faire des champignons à picorer pour qu'il y ait un peu plus de toucher, l'odeur de tartine de champignons, justement, pour avoir quelque chose qui s'approche vraiment du nez. En tout cas, c'est vrai que par rapport à ça, moi j'ai un peu une question, parce que j'ai cru voir dans le film, j'ai vu que vous aviez un moment présenté sur un beau plateau des champignons, il y avait un sparadrap crépus, c'était comme un tableau. Est-ce que vous en profitez pour faire connaître les champignons avant cuisson, avant préparation aux clients? Est-ce que c'est un mode pour vous de partage justement de cette connaissance de ce lien à l'espèce sauvage, ou est-ce que c'était juste pour le film? Enfin, je me doute que c'est peut-être une habitude.
For me, it is a habit to do it. Yes, it is true. In fact, we do it with our collaborators too, because it is important when we explain a dish, we want them to know the origin of that dish. And we do it with our guests as well, because the guests eat them, but that's not the end of it. We have to go back. And with our collaborators, we do the same. We alternate also mushrooms. We have mentioned vegetables, but also with fruits. So we can serve it on the table, and we can explain the origin, where they're coming from, what type of forest, what are the characteristics of these products. So we don't make any mistake. And guests, actually, when we talk about mycology, they are very aware of the origin of the products, the characteristics, the nutritional characteristics of the mushrooms or the products. And we want to explain this to guests in all detail. And the chefs that do it in France are very few, but I think it is an important aspect to explain this, especially with local mushrooms, so that they know the local products of our forest. I don't know if you have tasted our local products, but when you know the origins and you have this knowledge, then you can appreciate a lot more things. And I think this is great, this is brilliant, and my father, I'm sure he will agree with me. Yes, it is true, as Jacques said, to show the truth is extremely important because it gives this added value to guests or to our customers. The guests that come to our restaurant, they know our way of working and they know about this transparency when we present our products. And at the same time, it is a pleasure for us to accompany guests and diners in their discovery of nature. In our room, in our restaurant, this room becomes like a forest. It's as if it was a game between us and the guests. When we present our products, our local culture, we invite diners and guests to get carried away by this magic, which is mycology. It is a universe that we know and that we also want to reflect from the flavor point of view through food. Our work shows the consistency between products and cooking. We have to translate or transfer this message through flavors, through the French culture with its peculiarities. And some diners make a booking well in advance so that they can taste our mushrooms, but of course also and especially in order to live this flavoring moment that we want to create in our rooms. It is a special moment. Is there anyone who wants to add something else, or shall we continue? Okay, so we will continue with the video and then we can go back if there are more questions or comments.
Après avoir vu le service au restaurant et donc après avoir vu des recettes gastronomiques qui sont...
After seeing the service at the restaurant and the gastronomical recipes that we prepared, we are going to talk about the cooking school that is located at the town hall of Saint-Bonnet-le-Croix, which is focusing mainly on mushroom preservation. This is very important because it is true that if we want to eat mushrooms throughout the whole year, as is done in many countries, it is important to know how to preserve them. How to preserve them as preserves, just to store them, or also because we have had more abundant harvests. So in this manner, we want to add value to our recipes by creating a tradition of dried mushrooms that has become something very popular. And quickly, we are going to see some preparations of our typical recipes, like this mushroom cocktail with golden chanterelles, milk cups. They are sweet and sour preparations, a bit different from other preparations based on vinegar. We also use white wine. It's got this sweet and sour hint, aromatized with herbs, depending on what we want to treat. And this allows us to remind about the historical aspect of our culture. It is not widely used in France, but in the scientific world and in nutrition, in the nutritional area, with the microbiotas, this preserving method has been fostered lately in order to enable digestion. So what have you done? Here we have some bourmel slices of onion and slices of tomato, and we have distributed it on different layers: mushroom layer, salt layer, and so on. We use about 10 kilos of salt per product. So it's a mushroom, onion, tomato, salt, mushroom, onion, tomato, salt. And then we grind it, we mash it with a mortar, a wooden mortar. So we get a product that is similar to choucroute. There is a juice coming out of it that is not very salty. And then you have to mash it a lot. And thus the air comes out and the oxygen comes out, and we preserve the lactic bacteria. In the anaerobic bacteria enable the formation of a lactic acid that is used to preserve the products. Depending on the mushroom that we are treating, we have to know where this lactofermentation finishes, because it is done at room temperature. So that this lactofermentation stops, we have to put the products in cold. It is a very old technique. It is a traditional technique, and if you can taste the lactic acid, it means that it has been properly done. It is very much used in Poland, in Russian, and this is how you eat it, just like this. It has a very peculiar texture. It is fantastic. It's as if we were taking a raw mushroom. In fact, it is raw mushroom, and sometimes we do not think whether it is raw or not. The problem is that quite often there is a chitin, which is an enzyme that can be quite heavy on the stomach, and this mushroom was associated to the difficulty in digesting it. But it's not like this, because it is produced by our intestinal flora. But if it's done properly, you can digest it easily. It is almost used as a prebiotic. And in this preparation, you can consume the chitin, which is almost pre-digested. You have this liquid, and with lactofermentation, you achieve an easily digested product, as if it was a liquid brine. Here we have tried it with hedgehog mushroom. You can also try it with madcaps, and it is fantastic. And it can be done in a few days. In a few days, you obtain a product that is well preserved. And also, there is an aesthetic component that is quite important, because we can play with colors. We can take these transparent glass jars, and you can add onion, mushroom, tomato, red pepper, salt, of course.
Ça vous plaît?
Do you like it? We alternate layers of vegetables and mushrooms. And here we have finished the preparation at the cooking school of Régis Marcon with these mushroom jar that have been lacto-fermented with vegetables. Thanks to the creativity of our chef, we have been able to discover how to alternate different products. It is a pleasure for me, especially to share the technical aspects and the originality and innovation. And I think that it is very important in our present life, because it is a manner of rediscovering what has always existed. It is things that they have always existed, of course, but it is true that these preservation methods that are so sophisticated are coming back to light with an original touch, as we said earlier.
Qué interesante.
How interesting the the recovery. Can you hear me? Yes, it is very interesting to recover these ancient techniques, but I wanted to ask Regis specifically, how many days and at what room temperature do you need to obtain this lactic fermentation?
Ideally, I prefer short fermentations because we have a more crunchy or fresh texture and it keeps the taste. So ideally 4 or 5 days, it's okay. And what temperature? Well, the temperature, well, in the first few days, it's a room temperature. And as soon as the fermentation has started after 3 or 4 days, we put it not in the fridge, but fresh, 14, 15 degrees. And then you just cut it with cold, you put it in a fridge at 4 degrees. 5 days at 20 degrees, and then in the fridge 3-4 degrees, it stabilizes and you can eat it for 2 or 3 weeks without problem. And do the flavors change a lot? Because there is a combination of mushrooms with vegetables, onion, pepper. Is there a fusion of all those flavors? Well, the flavors of the onion works well with the mushroom flavors, and then the textures are very interesting. And nowadays in cuisine with the mushrooms, it's very new, but it's very interesting. It's the beginning for my father and myself to cooking mushrooms with that are fermented, and it's very interesting. Very well, thank you very much. And I give you, Jean, the floor again. Thank you very much, first of all, to Regis and Jacques for working in collaboration, because we will also give the floor to Melanie to see what she thinks about this. But these are ancient techniques, so we can guarantee the quality for our health of this kind of preparation, because it's been done for tens of years. However, it would be very interesting to do more research on the microbiology, what happens, because if we look at the bibliography, the literature about lactofermentation of mushrooms, we don't have so much information. And the fact of combining with vegetables allows us the bacteria to be active. Lactofermentation has a quick effect on mushrooms. So all that is very interesting. Now maybe there should be some microbiology studies or nutrition studies to check all the beneficial effects of this practice. So, Mélanie, would you like to say something?
Pour revenir sur cette technique, c'est vrai que
coming back to this
on en a parlé en amont
aussi.
Je trouve ça effectivement intéressant d'aller un peu comme finalement l'écoute en Guyane des pratiques traditionnelles, d'aller voir un peu comment ailleurs ça se on utilise les champignons, et c'est vrai que c'est pas une technique qui est très répandue en France, mais par contre il est beaucoup dans l'est de l'Europe et finalement en Asie, quand on pense à la sauce soja, finalement c'est la même base, enfin voilà, c'est des fermentations de légumes souvent des bactéries lactiques, en tout cas pour certaines fermentations asiatiques on voit que c'est utilisé. Donc voilà, cette écoute des pratiques traditionnelles elle est intéressante. Et par ailleurs, ce qui est intéressant, c'est que ça nous fait aussi comprendre comment agissent
We understand how
en fait, les champignons comme complément peuvent être aussi utilisés.
and how they can be used
C'est
as a
vrai que tu en parlais dans le
complement.
film, voilà, ils sont
You were
riches en
talking
chitin,
about
mais
it in
c'est
the
aussi riche
video.
en
There's
sucre,
chitin, also no
en
sugar,
glucosamine et compagnie, qui vont être des substrats pour les
glucosamine,
bactéries.
these
Des
substrates
bactéries qui d'ailleurs, il faut peut-être le rappeler, habitent sur nos
will
doigts,
work
habitent
with
sur
the
toutes les
bacteria. These
surfaces.
bacteria live
En tout
everywhere
cas,
in
prendre
our
la
fingers and
peau
all
des champignons,
surfaces. So
prendre
we
la
could
peau
take
d'un
the
fruit,
peel
d'un
of the
oignon
mushroom of a
pour
fruit of an
enrichir en
onion
bactéries
to enrich the bacteria.
ces préparations, c'est essentiel.
In these preparations,
Voilà,
that is
il faut laver,
essential.
mais toujours
They
garder
say
la
you
peau
have to
parce que c'est
clean,
des
but
bactéries qui
keep the
existent
peel
partout
because these bacteria are
dans la
everywhere
nature. Donc
in
ça,
nature.
et donc du coup comprendre comment,
So we
voilà,
can understand
juste en favorisant par la dégradation des sucres
with
certaines
sugar
bactéries qui habitent dans
degradation,
l'environnement.
and there are
C'est
some
assez génial.
bacteria that are in the environment. I think this is
Ceci dit,
exceptional.
effectivement, c'est aussi
Having
bien de
said
voir que
that,
les
it
champignons, c'est
would be
plutôt un
good to see
complément.
that
Tout seul,
mushrooms are more
j'ai essayé tout seul, ça marche pas
accompaniment
si bien. C'est
on
bien
their
quand
own
ça,
doesn't
voilà, un
work
peu
so
d'oignon,
much.
ça
It
contrôle un
works
peu
well when you have onion
voilà, la communauté.
to
C'est bien quand on apporte un peu de
control
parois de fruits, parce que finalement
and
c'est plus
some
riche en tanins, et les tanins, ça fait
fruit
baisser
with
aussi
the
un peu
tannins
l'acidité,
and
donc ça permet de
introduces
développer
activity,
l'acidité qui
so
va
it
conserver
develops the
sans aller
acidity
tout de
that
suite
will
vers un
keep
champignon tout mou.
and not
Donc
keep
moi
it
je sais que sur les
too
fermentations, là
soft.
j'ai testé de
So I've
rajouter des feuilles de
tested
chêne hyper riches en
things
tanins, justement pour garder la
to
texture.
use
Voilà, et de
leaves,
comprendre du coup comment on
oak
joue avec
leaves to
la biochimie
play with the
des champignons, du
biochemistry of the
mélange de
mushrooms
légumes.
by mixing it with
C'est une vraie école aussi,
vegetables.
donc
It's a
ça
real
va dans le sens de
school, really.
l'éducation,
So
de réapprendre
it goes into
voilà, à s'intéresser aux
education
champignons dans
and
cette diversité
relearning
de
and
molécules et de jouer
all these
avec.
molecules and to play with this.
Et ensuite, c'est vrai qu'on est tombé en faisant un peu de
And it's
bibliographie avec Jean
true
sur des
that
articles
we have little
qui justement
literature
comparent
of
un peu
this
la composition chimique de différents
to
champignons
compare
et
the
s'intéressent aux
chemical
différentes étapes.
components
Est-ce
of
qu'il faut
mushrooms and
blanchir
the
les
different
champignons
stages
avant pour
because
se
you have to
débarrasser de
whiten
certaines
the
molécules
mushrooms
solubles,
to remove
notamment
some
je pense à des
soluble
petits acides aminés
molecules,
dont
amino
la
acids.
fermentation apparemment peut
So
mener
the
à la production de
lactofermation can
toxines. Donc
produce
ça,
some
voilà,
toxins.
tout n'est pas connu, mais c'est vrai qu'il
Not
y a des
everything
mises en
is
garde, il y a
known,
aussi une
so there's some
connaissance,
warnings and we
voilà,
need
de la
the
connaissance de la composition
knowledge
des champignons qui est intéressante
about the
à
compounds
chercher.
of mushrooms that needs to
Et
be
c'est quelque chose
researched.
qu'on voit évoluer, par exemple,
And
dans
this is
l'article qu'on avait trouvé.
evolving, like in the article we found,
C'était beaucoup sur des champignons
there
de
was a
culture,
lot about
les
cultivated
agariques, les pleurantes,
mushrooms,
les
different
auriculariens.
types,
Mais par exemple, dans le
auricularia,
guide du NOMA,
but in the NOMA
on a des
guide,
excellents restos là,
in
à
one of,
Copenhague, il y a toute
restaurant
une
in
partie sur la
Copenhagen,
lactofermentation des
they
cèpes,
have a
alors que
study
c'est pas
on
quelque chose qui est
the
tellement évoqué
lactofermentation of
dans
boliters,
les articles scientifiques.
and
Donc
we don't
il y
find
a
it in
aussi une partie
scientific articles. So
d'expérimentation,
there's
par
also
exemple
some
avec ce que vous avez fait
experimenting,
sur les
like what you
piottes,
did
qui n'est pas forcément dans
yourselves.
l'article, mais voilà, on
It's not
expérimente,
necessarily
on
in the
voit
article,
si la
but
texture
there
se
is
maintient,
experimenting to
si
see if it keeps the
effectivement à l'odeur,
texture,
voilà, on n'a
if
pas un film,
the smell
à
is
l'odeur, ça
good.
signe pas des, voilà, un peu de dérive. Donc effectivement, c'est une invitation
So
en tout cas
it's an
à
invitation
expérimenter,
to
mais tout en sachant que, voilà, on peut aller quand même
experimentation,
aussi
and
certains mélanges qui sont peut-être pas
we
faciles
can
comestibles.
find,
Il faut juste
we need
garder
to
ça
be
en tête.
careful with the combinations, and we need to bear that in mind. Well, you
Oui,
have to
c'est ça.
experiment, but it needs to be good, obviously. It wouldn't work if it's not good.
Oui, donc avec Fernando Martinez Peña qui est dans la salle. Là.
So Fernando Martinez Peña is in the room. He's the director of the European Mycological Institute. We would like to develop research programs in collaboration with the Institute. Simple projects with the students. In Soria, there is a national institute, a branch. There's a unit in Soria that would allow to do this kind of collaboration in the future. We could work with the University of Toulouse. We could have this kind of collaboration. Very good. So let's watch the last bit of the film.
Je m'excuse,
I'm
je dois
going
filer
to
parce que j'ai une réunion
apologize because I
justement
have
pour
to go
parler
have a
d'écologie
meeting
des
to
champignons en
talk
même temps.
about ecology
Donc
of
je m'excuse,
mushrooms.
c'était un plaisir en
So
tout
I'm
cas de
really
pouvoir
sorry. It
participer
was
même
a pleasure
brièvement.
to be
Muchas
here, even
gracias,
if it was briefly.
Benigno,
So thank you very much
nos
to
vemos.
Benigno,
Después miro
and
todo la
see you later. Later, I will watch the whole session.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye.
On passe à la suite.
So let's maybe watch the last bit of the video because time's running. Okay. Okay, yes, let's launch the next video.
La vidéo.
the chefs, actors of their territory. This is a meeting for an exchange. We have many stays in tourism. The most beautiful forests are on the other side. Very beautiful forests. If we develop tourism in Sok or hotels, businesses, this is money that we can invest in the forest, and it will allow us to keep the forest. We can doing what they're doing in Spain and other places. Instead of staying in their corner, they go around the table and decide what to do, so we can work together to understand each other's needs. I am aware that managing a forest is expensive to keep it up, and the purpose is to have a meeting, and I'm happy to feed you today. Maybe you're not paying the normal price. I'm happy to do this, but we are aware of that somehow. There's awareness that if we don't put the means, there will be no mushroom, there will be nothing else, because this will cause problems like in other places. We can ask what they're doing in Spain. They keep the forest engineers. They tell us that the forest belongs to everyone, but we just change the people's mentality, because I buy mushrooms. If I could help you as actor of tourism, maybe there are other ways to do this, like they do in Soria. I would be very happy. We need to work together. And I think what's happening in Spain is very interesting.
Sí. Yo, Jack, creo
que... I think, Jacques, you wanted to give the floor to Fernando Martínez Peña. Do you think we can give him the floor now? Let's have him talk now. Fernando is the director of the European Mycological Institute. I don't know if you heard what I said, that we introduced you in previous sessions, but just we remind everyone that you are the director of the European Mycological Institute and in charge of the coordination and valorization of the mycological resources and its sustainability and what is being done in Castilla and Leon, but also in Spain, and also coordinated with other European countries and other parts of the world. So you have the floor, Fernando. Thank you, Benigno. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure for me to be here. Simply, I wanted to say that from the European Cooperation Group that I am managing, as Jean said, we are trying to favor networks and contact, and also to generate innovation, also in gastronomy. For us, it's very important to have this model, as I said in previous presentations, to get all the chefs and cooks in world of research. As Jean said before, this model of working groups that we call microculinary hubs has a great potential for development. Like we said yesterday in the case of the presentation we had with Elena Lucas, for us it is essential to work with the local product, as you have very well explained in France, and all the techniques like the one you showed with lactofermentation or other techniques that we might apply are opportunities to develop innovation, gastronomical innovation in our territory. Therefore, our main interest is to create networks for collaboration, to share best practices, and to create joint projects, let's say collaborative projects, to go to international competitive offers, to obtain funds and develop this innovation, always with restaurants, with food companies. And we have with us one of the main French companies, the Alain Borde, and we really would like to, in the future, to share a project with the support of the European Mycological Institute. This institute at the moment is joined by French, Spanish members mainly, but we also have contacts with other countries such as Canada, Japan, China, and this is important for all these international exchanges for knowledge. So I insist, and I give you my website again, www.eumi.eu, and we are in social networks and at European Myco. And it's important for us to get to know us, and that all ideas, all projects related to these topics can be promoted jointly. So thank you very much. Thank you, Fernando, for your contribution. I'll give the floor again to Jean. And coming back to the last part of the film, we thought it was important to highlight the role of Régie Saint-Jacques in their local territory. They have a great influence on their town, on their community, with an economic project in that local territory, so it's very important. So famous restaurants can assume an acting role for the local development. I think it's absolutely fantastic and efficient. And the idea is now to see in the last part of the film is just to evoke. It was a meeting, so there were forest and institutions, and the idea was to create links between the forest owners and the companies that value the mushrooms and have close links, so that we can build a real project for the territory. That's why we wanted to show that video. Well, yes, Jean, we are willing to work as a group on the forest ownership and chefs, researchers, everybody. We have already done a little bit, but we'll try to go to the next gear. And I think I speak on Jacques' behalf and the team here. We want to participate in this work. And we will have to leave, because we have to leave, and we hope they will be very successful, and we will be in touch. Thank you very much. Thank you, and congratulations for all you do in Castilla and León and Soria, because they are great initiatives that inspire us here in France, and we'll try to do as good as you in our little corner in Ardèche. So you're doing a wonderful work in Spain, in Castile and León. So congratulations to you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, see you soon. Goodbye. Bye. It was a pleasure.